G'day guys, my name's Sandra. Welcome to the wonderful world of censorship in 2021. Who would have thought that we would have ended up in a situation like this, especially on a platform like Facebook, which, the way that Facebook is now is definitely not what the owner of it, Zuckerberg, wants us to believe it's like, and it's not what it was created for. But anyway, here you go, right? So I've come into Facebook and look at this. Your comment goes against community standards on spam. Well said, Jay, and here you go. These are the global stats as of September the 15th, 2020. As you can see, the virus has a 98% recovery, just like it has since the start of the pandemic. And you can see here a very trusted link, but they're claiming that this comment is spam. Don't know where Facebook get that from. Now Facebook are calling trusted websites, legitimate government stats as spam. But this is how I deal with comments like this. I go continue. And it says this, and I go continue. And then they give you this information, and I go continue. And then I go disagree. Now, the reason I disagree is because if I disagree, then they have to relook at the comment. And if they want to disagree again, then I can go to a higher power above Facebook. And quite often I have gone to the higher power above Facebook and actually won on the grounds of Facebook, doing the wrong thing. So then I click continue. And they give you this bullshit here, COVID-19, blah, blah, blah. This means we may not be able to follow up with you, though your feedback helps us do better in the future, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll click close. All right, so I will give that probably a day at the most before I check. And I guarantee you that when I check, they would have cleared that comment and it will be back up for other people to see. And this is the censorship, right? This is censorship gone mad. And, I'm not here to fight anybody on anything, right? Me personally, I think this whole pandemic, I think the powers that be are making a big deal out of nothing. Because they have a hidden agenda, and I believe that they have scared a lot of people with, a virus that is nowhere near as deadly as what they claim. Now, that's just my own personal opinion on the whole situation. But I think that, your leaders, your governments, and even a lot of your medical professionals are using this lie, and I'm going to call it a lie, to scare you into a particular state so that they can take control of you and take away things that they had no right to take away from you in the first place, like your civil liberties, your human rights, and your freedom. And this is what I believe is going on. This is my opinion entirely, and has nothing to do with anybody else's, opinions or anything like that. And everybody is entitled to their own opinions. And as for, being inoculated, in these test trials with what's going on, well, I believe in freedom of choice. And I believe that, if people feel, if people are fearful enough for themselves and they feel that, this test inoculation is going to benefit them, well, then I believe that they have the right to be able to go and have that inoculation without being criticized, demonized, or put down, or, have the finger pointed at them. And the same as those who don't want to be inoculated, who don't feel scared or the need to rush out and get inoculated. I don't feel that those people should be demonized, have the finger pointed at them or anything else. But that's what's happening in the world at the moment. Your governments are segregating. They're separating your community. They're causing racial prejudice and discrimination amongst you. They are causing friends to fight each other. They're causing friendships that you've had since you were a child to fall along the wayside. They're causing friends to now become enemies. And I'm just asking you all, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you fall on, at least respect the freedom of choice, right? Somebody else not being inoculated is not going to affect you in any way, shape or form. If you've been inoculated, well then as far as you're concerned and as far as your beliefs are concerned, you should feel safe because that was the choice you made, right? So, somebody else not being inoculated is not going to affect you, is it? Because you've been inoculated. You've had your inoculation. So, somebody who's not inoculated, the only person they're affecting is themselves, right? They're not affecting the community. They're not hurting the community. And let's call it as it is, right? The flu. Look at the flu. The flu is a very contagious, serious virus, people. Right, the flu has killed hundreds of thousands of people over the years, millions, right? The different flu strains, Spanish flu, swine flu, influenza A and B and all of that sort of stuff. I don't know them all. I'm not a doctor, epidemiologist or virologist, but let's talk about the flu and how seriously deadly that particular virus can be. Yet we live with it every year, don't we? We now have, vaccinations for the flu, which is great for a lot of people who feel they need the vaccinations for the flu. But I have never seen in the history of the flu, even really bad flu years like 2017, 2019, and even some of the earlier ones, I have never seen a community divided or segregated or attack people who did not get inoculated or vaccinated for the flu. I've never seen it. I've never seen people locked down. I've never seen communities locked down because the flu contagion has spread to over 300,000 people in the Australian economy. Right? I never seen lockdowns. I never seen businesses close. I never seen people fighting each other. I never seen, the level of censorship going on. When people were talking about the flu and whether they were getting vaccinated, whether they're not getting vaccinated, I've never seen this level of craziness. And to be quite honest, everybody, I'm not convinced that the flu is any less dangerous than the current illness that's running around right now. I'm not convinced that the current illness is any more dangerous than the flu, because personally I believe the flu is a very serious virus. And it's not taken seriously enough, in my opinion, because, people go to work with the flu and they give the flu to somebody who's, compromised, who has comorbidities, and then that poor person, whether they're vaccinated or not, that poor person gets the flu because you came to work with the flu because you can work with the flu because you're stronger than them, and then that poor person has died from the flu. Nobody is held responsible for that every year, are they? No, they're not. Yet here you are believing that an illness that is no more deadly than influenza, which is come on people, let's face it, it's a freaking serious virus. And it's been around for many years and it's killed millions of people over the years. Especially in its bad years, it's killed hundreds of thousands of people in some countries that don't have the level of vaccination that we have. And yet here we are, with an illness that's no more deadly than influenza, and we have a level of censorship that is absolutely ridiculous. We have people who they may as well hold people like me down and cut my tongue out because I refuse to shut up. I refuse to stop talking about this. And why should I? My opinion should be just as valid as your opinion, whether or not, he said, she said, whether or not you're inoculated and I'm not, both our opinions should carry just as much weight as each other. Your opinion shouldn't be better than mine just because you're inoculated and I'm inoculated, or and I'm not, or I'm inoculated and you're not inoculated, right? Nobody's opinion should be squashed. Nobody's voice should be stamped out of existence. Can you please, whether you have had the big V, or not had the big V? Can we finally agree that something is seriously wrong with society? And can we now all come together as one and start attacking the people who need to be attacked? And that is our governments. We need to start dismantling our governments, and we need to go to the polls and we need to vote them out. We need to sing with one really large voice and let them know that we have had enough. We are saying no to passports. We are saying no to segregations. We are saying no to taking freedoms away from some people. I mean, come on, let's face it. If you've gotten the big V, well, then you're safe, aren't you? So why should it matter whether somebody else hasn't had the big V? They're not going to harm you. I mean, if anything, they can get sicker from you than you can from them, because you can get the illness, and because you've gotten the V, you may just be asymptomatic or have a mild case of it and not even know that you've got the illness, and you could give it to this person who has chosen not to, and they could very well get very, very ill. But talking about denying people medical care because they make a choice for their own body that they feel is best for them, and saying that they should be denied medical care? Are you going to deny somebody medical care just because they chose to smoke cigarettes? Are you going to choose now? Are you going to start to choose to deny people medical care because they're obese and haven't lost any weight, and now they're in hospital needing ICU support for something like diabetes or insulin resistance or something else? I mean, come on, people. Where does it stop? Where does your madness stop, right? Just because you've had the big V, don't consider yourself to be better than somebody else, right? If you've gone out and got that because you trust in what you've been told, well, then you should be fine. You shouldn't care who is or isn't. You haven't in the past. You didn't care in the past who was vaccinated for chickenpox, measles, whooping cough, or anything else. You didn't care who was vaccinated for the flu. I mean, come on, how many of you have had the big V vaccination, right? The big for this illness, and how many of you have not been vaccinated for the flu? So how many of you have gone ahead and been inoculated for the illness now, but not been inoculated for the flu? Yeah, come on, you have a look in the mirror and have a look at your hypocrisy. If you have been inoculated now for this illness, but you haven't been inoculated in the past for the influenza virus, which kills people, right? Every year that it comes about, it's killed people. If you haven't been inoculated for that and you've ever gone to work with the flu, and you're now talking out and saying yes to passports, and yes, we should lock away people who aren't inoculated and we should treat them like second-class citizens, how fucking hypocritical are you, right? What sort of hypocrite and hypocrisy are you living under if you've gotten inoculated now for the current illness, but you haven't been inoculated for the flu in the past and you've gone to work with the flu? How do you know that you going to work hasn't caused the death of one of your workmates or somebody else on public transport or out in the street when you went to the coffee shop or went to the cafe to buy lunch or went to the grocery store on the way home? How do you know that you haven't passed that influenza virus off onto somebody else who is immunocompromised and killed them? And yet here you stand without the vaccination, without the inoculation of the flu, and you've been inoculated for the current climate of disease, and you're standing up and saying that uninoculated people who haven't got the inoculation should be discriminated against? What type of person does that make you? And I ask any of you to go and have a look in the mirror and start asking yourself some simple fucking questions, people. Because if you think you're a good person who's not hypocritical, you might want to think again. And all I ask of everybody is, can we stop the madness? Can you please turn off mainstream media lies? Can you please stop streaming government propaganda? Just stop. Just turn it all off. If you want to find out what's going on, look at independent journalism. Or better still, don't look at any of it. But, can we stop feeding into the agenda that is the government? I mean, I don't know if you've seen the news story just today about the UK, Australia and the US joining forces. New world order. But hey, if you haven't seen that news story, go and read it. It's pretty scary. But some of the things our Prime Minister says in his press release about that, talking about freedom, free choices, civil liberties, democracy, what a hypocritical statement and BS that was. So I'm imploring all of you. You don't have to like me. You don't have to 100% agree with me. But I implore all of you to grab a hold of yourselves and take a look in the mirror and ask yourself some simple questions. If you have been inoculated for this current illness, but you have not been vaccinated for the flu, and you are supporting passports and you're supporting segregation and discrimination against those who are fighting for the freedom of choice not to be inoculated, but you haven't had the vaccine for the flu and you've gone to work for the flu and you're supporting those causes, I ask yourself to have a look in the mirror and see the hypocrite that you have become and you have allowed yourself to become because you are too engrossed in mainstream media lies and the government agenda. Look at what censorship is doing to the world. Look at what censorship is doing in your own community. Look at what censorship is doing in families. It's tearing people apart. And that is what these evil, evil people want. At the moment, it is a reign of evil that is ruling over this world. And what they want to do is they want to segregate us. They want to take away love. They don't want us to have affection. They don't want us to hug. They don't want us to love each other. They don't want us to spend time with each other. They don't want us to be able to have the God-given right to hold the hand of a loved one and say goodbye to that loved one in their final moments. They have been separating and segregating and stopping us from doing that in the name of an illness that is in my opinion, is no worse and no more contagious than influenza. Anyway, that's my rant over, people. I'm gonna hang up for now. I don't even know how long this video will stay up, but please, take a look at the censorship, the rubbish, the censorship that's going on. And take a long, hard look at yourself and see if you have allowed the agenda and propaganda to turn you into something you never thought you would become. And if it has, take a step away and go back to the person that you believe that you are, a loving, caring person who wants to be with your friends, who wants to be with your family, who wants to celebrate love and life and happiness, not segregation, discrimination, racial prejudice. Anyway, this is Sandra signing out. Take care of yourselves, guys, and for those of you who are like me, who are trying to fight back in the best way you can against censorship, don't give up, don't lay down, don't let the crucifying, horrible, disgusting comments from people who have lost their way and become hypocrites and become dictators, don't let them undermine your belief in who you are and what you believe in, because in this world, this free world, we should all have a choice how we take care of our own health, not a few dictators. Bye.